My name is Renee Calloway. I am 32 years old, spelled out as 32 when you read this aloud. The night I signed the closing papers on my lake house, my brother called to tell me I would not be living there alone. His voice was light, almost cheerful, the way people sound when they assume you already agree with them. We talked about it, he said. The house is big enough for everyone. Mom and Dad are bringing the guest room furniture this weekend. I asked him to repeat himself, not because I misheard, but because I needed a second to understand that my brother believed my home had quietly become a family asset the moment I closed on it. For a moment, I almost laughed. Then I heard him say something that erased any confusion. Don't make this difficult, Renee. You always make things difficult. I did not raise my voice. I asked him one question. What time are they arriving? He told me Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, like he was reading me a delivery schedule. The call ended, and I sat in the quiet of a house I had not even fully unpacked, and I felt something settle inside me that had nothing to do with anger. It felt like clarity. Before I tell you what happened when that truck pulled into my driveway, tell me where you're watching from right now. What time is it there? Is the weather calm, or is something brewing outside your window too? I always wonder how far a story like this travels before it finds the person who needs to hear it. To understand why I did not panic, you need to understand what my family called help. My brother Dean called it help when he used my truck for 2 months and returned it with a cracked windshield he never mentioned. My mother called it help when she rearranged my kitchen while house sitting and never asked. My father called it help when he co-signed a loan for Dean using documents he found in my old filing cabinet without telling me. I learned early that in my family, help was something done to you, never something offered and accepted. I spent years being the responsible one, the one with the steady paycheck, the one who wired money when Dean's contracting business failed twice, the one who covered 2 months of my parents' mortgage when my father lost work. When I finally left my corporate job to consult independently, nobody asked if I was okay. My mother asked who would help cover the family expenses now. I bought the lake house with money I saved alone, over 9 years, after selling a condo that was also entirely mine. I told my family the address only after the deed was already recorded, because for once I wanted a decision nobody could quietly revise. After Dean's call, I phoned an attorney named Priya Anand, someone I had met through the home purchase. I read her the text messages that followed Dean's call. Mom is already packing the china. Dad says this is a family investment now. You'll thank us later. Priya told me 3 things. Do not let a single box cross your threshold. Send written notice tonight revoking any permission to enter. Document everything from this point forward. I sent the notice within the hour, Dean replied with a laughing emoji. My father wrote back, "You don't understand what's already been arranged." That sentence told me everything. This was not a misunderstanding. Something had already been arranged. I called a locksmith before sunrise. I called the sheriff's non-emergency line and explained calmly that relatives intended to move belongings into my home against my written refusal, and that one message referenced an arrangement I had never agreed to. A deputy called back and said a patrol unit could be nearby given the tone of the messages I forwarded. That is how the police became part of my morning, not through drama, but through documentation. While the locksmith worked, Priya arrived with a folder and a thermos, and together we found something in my mailbox that explained the word arrangement. An insurance policy renewal addressed to Dean Calloway, listing this address as his primary residence, dated from 11 days earlier. Beneath it, a business registration for something called Lakeside Family Retreats, formed 6 weeks before my closing date, listing my new address as its headquarters. Dean had built a business around my home before he ever told me he was coming. By mid-morning, we found an online listing using photos from my real estate listing, advertising lakefront getaways, with bookings already accepted for 2 upcoming weekends. My family had not packed for a visit. They had packed for a business launch. At 9 o'clock, the moving truck arrived exactly on schedule. Dean climbed out first, keys in hand, keys that no longer worked. He struck the door with his fist and called my name. I opened it only as far as the chain allowed and let him see the deputies standing behind me. "What is this?" he asked. "The welcome you arranged," I said. My mother stepped forward, holding a potted fern like a peace offering. My father held a folded document. He said it was a residency agreement, signed by me, granting them 5 years of housing in exchange for $1 a year as, in his words, family consideration. Priya asked to see it. My father refused, then handed it to the deputy instead. I looked at the signature at the bottom. It resembled mine the way a forged signature always does. Close enough to recognize, wrong enough to feel hollow. When was this signed? I asked. Thanksgiving, my father said. I spent that Thanksgiving in another city with coworkers. I have the receipts to prove it. My father changed his answer to Christmas. The notary stamp on the page belonged to a notary whose license had expired months earlier. That is not family consideration, I said. That is forgery. Dean's composure cracked first. We have nowhere else to go, he said. Mom and Dad already gave notice on their apartment. I already ended my lease. You cannot just humiliate us over paperwork. Your decisions were made after I said no, I told him. You didn't say no until this morning, he said. I never said yes, I answered. Then Dean made the mistake that ended any doubt. Even if you tear up that agreement, he said, our mail already comes here. The utilities are already being switched over. We've established ourselves. I thanked him for saying that in front of the deputies because 30 minutes earlier I had received a fraud alert on my phone. Someone had applied for a business credit line using my address as collateral, with my name listed as guarantor. The applicant was Lakeside Family Retreats. My father said the application was only preliminary. My mother told me not to discuss finances in front of strangers. The deputy reminded her that privacy ends where fraud begins. I opened the folder Priya had prepared, a single page summarizing more than $70,000 I had given my family over the years. Money is not the only thing a family contributes, my father said. You are right, I told him. You also taught me what happens when I stop protecting myself. The deputies ordered the truck turned away. My father tried to push past them once, was redirected, and was warned that any further attempt would end differently. They left. I thought that was the end of it, until calls started coming from relatives who had heard a different story, one where I had stolen the family's retirement plan. My aunt admitted she had wired money to Dean's company for what he called a founding membership. My family had used the idea of my lake house to raise money before I ever moved in. Weeks later, in a courtroom, I did not raise my voice once. The footage, the messages, the forged document, the credit application, all of it spoke for itself. The judge granted a permanent order keeping my family away from the property and barring them from using my name or my home in any business again. My father eventually accepted responsibility for the forged document in a negotiated resolution. Dean's company was dissolved for unpaid fees. My mother was never charged, but the order against her stood the same as the others. They did not lose their freedom. They lost access to my money, my home, and my willingness to rescue them from consequences they created themselves. Months later, I turned the room Dean had labeled office on his moving boxes into a studio where I do my consulting work now. I sleep without waiting for the next emergency text. My mother wrote me one letter that finally said something true. She said she had taught me that love meant surrender and that she had been wrong. I have not answered yet. An apology is not the same as access, and I am no longer confused about the difference. People ask if I forgive my family. I tell them forgiveness and access are not the same thing. I can release the anger without ever handing back the key. That night, I locked the door, turned on the porch light, and watched the water go still and dark across the lake. My brother once told me if I did not like it, I could live somewhere else. He was right about one thing. Someone needed to live somewhere else. It was never going to be me.